Have you ever noticed how the people around you can influence the way you think about your relationship? Are they lifting you up or pulling you down? Let's dive in.
Be okay, girl, there ain't nothing I wouldn't do. If they gave me everything, I would give it all away for you. Give it all away, all away. With you, I know I'll be okay, girl, there ain't nothing I wouldn't do.
Why do people underestimate the power of community in shaping their marriage?
Why? Honestly, I think the reality is that a lot of people think that they have the power. For instance, a lot of people believe I'm strong-willed. I won't let anyone influence me. I make up my own mind. I have my own power, my own autonomy, and outside forces won't get in the way of what it is that I ultimately want to do. And I think because people believe that to be true, this is the reason why a lot of people think that any community can be around you. And I also think this is why people keep community connected to them, but doesn't necessarily service who they are now.
Studies have shown that couples with overlapping social networks often experience higher marital satisfaction. Shared friendships can enhance intimacy and mutual support within the marriage. However, maintaining entirely separate social circles can negatively impact marital quality, particularly for women. This separation may lead to feelings of isolation or divided loyalties. Friendships that lack mutual growth or support can impede personal development. Such relationships may foster negative behaviors or attitudes, limiting one's potential and well-being.
Because as we're going through life and we're making these changes, for many of us who have decided to be in marriages, if we don't have a community of people who are in marriages, those people don't really understand the life we're living. And so a lot of the advice, it isn't just the way they are in the world that's different than you if you've tried to be in a marriage, but it's also the information they may provide to you may be counter to what it takes to be in a committed marriage, which is why I think it's really important that you have like those resources and people you can rely on that have a level of understanding for what you're going through. And also it's important, I think, to have people in your life who have also made the same kind of commitment towards marriage that you have. Because then not only will they have understanding, but what they will do in guidance will always be to push you together. I think that people who have decided that marriage is not for them, everyone's entitled to their own decision. But I do believe that a lot of times the advice they're given is based on the life they're living. And that's why it's important that you have people who are in your community and in your supportive network that have also made similar commitments so that they can understand what you're going through.
I agree. I mean, I do feel like there are people, like you said, you mentioned not too long ago that, they have the autonomy to be able to control, what things they would do and wouldn't do based on the values that they have, as opposed to whatever other values other people may have. I feel like with women, sometimes it could be a little different because women can support each other in certain ways. We have similarities in terms of giving birth and, certain emotional, characteristics that we share naturally, and just having an understanding that is a little bit different to how men understand things because, our brain power is just different, right? So I think that's...
You think it's a power, like a brain power? Do you think it's a processing? What do you think it is?
I just think it's more so understanding. Women tend to understand one another, because we have a lot of similarities with the way we were made up, if that makes sense. It doesn't necessarily mean we're exactly the same because everyone's their own person, right? But we do have similarities when it comes to sometimes how we carry our emotions. Obviously, we go through a lot of the same things when it comes to giving birth. Some might be a little bit more, extreme with giving birth than others. It might be a little easier, but it's still the same process for the most part. Carrying a child growing inside of you, all the different chemical imbalances that take place during the process. Sometimes how sensitive we can get, I'm just talking about the things that are the general, aspects of, how a woman is typically made up, which differs from a man. So I say all of that to say, when you mention that, sometimes people feel like they're strong to where they won't be pulled in to maybe some of the negativity or things that, may be existing within, the group or whatever group of women that you decide to hang out with. I think some people feel like they can separate, they can have the girl power and the support and like, yeah, you're awesome. But then on the other side, it's like, if you're doing certain things that doesn't necessarily align with what you do in your marriage, that's when you kind of step back and say, okay, you do you, but I'm not going to do that. However, I will agree with you that a lot of times people will associate you with the company that you actually keep, right? So I think that's fair. I just wanted to mention both sides because again, there are women that feel like they can kind of separate themselves from, the parts that doesn't necessarily correlate with who they are, as opposed to, what they're, I don't know, like just the whole support.
But I kind of think it might also be a little bit of a mistake because while I do recognize that everyone has a different level of power in other people, persuading them towards things. But I think that it's also a little dangerous if the individuals there's certain kinds of conversations that happen in single circles, right? There's certain kind of conversations and information that happens in single circles. There's certain information that is talked about or, kind of proliferated through groups like that. And if you're a married person and that's the space that you're occupying a lot, I mean, it's one of those things that it can lead to, if there's disruption at home, it can lead to thoughts that wouldn't exist if you were in a community that wasn't frequent in those things. I think this is also the reason why there are a lot of women that have trouble if their husband is going out with the single guys and they're going out doing those things, right? Because of if you're in that space and you're opening the door to these kinds of things, I think it's dangerous.
Associating with single friends who engage in activities not conducive to married life, such as frequent partying or promiscuity, can introduce behaviors that may strain a marriage. Maintaining close relationships with single friends may lead to time management challenges, where the married individual might struggle to balance time between their spouse and friends. This imbalance can result in feelings or neglect or resentment within the marriage. When it comes to open communication, married individuals should discuss their friendships with their spouses to ensure mutual understanding and address any concerns. For setting boundaries, establishing clear boundaries regarding activities and time spent with friends can help protect the marital relationship. When it comes to evaluating friendship dynamics, regularly assessing whether certain friendships positively or negatively impact the marriage can guide decisions about how to engage with single friends.
While friendship with single individuals can offer valuable social support, it's essential for married men to consider how these relationships influence their marriage. Balancing friendships and marital responsibilities through open communication and appropriate boundaries can help maintain marital harmony.
I can agree with you in that, because it could be a situation that you probably wouldn't have been in if you didn't go out with these single, friends that doesn't have, they're not in relationships or doesn't have wives, and they are moving a certain way, and you're kind of chill, but it could potentially put you in a situation that now you have to kind of fight yourself out of, like, hey, no, like, I'm married, I'm going this way. Please don't come all up in my space, so I totally get that. I remember I had, there was a friend of mine that came with me out. We went to this oldies, kind of like, not really a concert, but they were just playing a lot of oldies music, and it was really cool because we got to kind of reminisce on a lot of old school songs and stuff that we kind of grew up on. So when we got there, everything was great. We were having fun. The environment was amazing. I mean, so much energy. There were different age groups. Everybody was just in a really good mood and just happy, right? And then we decided to walk over to go and get a drink. And as we were kind of weaving through the crowd, this gentleman had came up to me, trying to talk to me. And I couldn't even barely hear what he was saying. Like, I almost didn't even realize he was talking to me. I was kind of like this. And my friend kind of interjected and was like, "Ho, she's married. So, you can't talk." And she's single. Right. So I think maybe those instances where you can actually go out with a girlfriend who may be single, but she respects your relationship. She respects your marriage, not to say that she's going to fight your battles. Right. But she's genuinely respecting your marriage. So she's not going to try to do anything to try to coerce you to kind of mess up or laugh if a guy try to, come talk to you and like, "Yeah, girl, you still got it. And maybe you should, whatever."
Is that what happens? Is that what happens?
I mean, I guess it just depends on what kind of friend you have. I mean, maybe those are the kind of friends that you kind of need to say, "All right, you know what? Once you get in a relationship and you could kind of understand where I am, then maybe we'll kind of see, where you are." Women often build relationship-driven communities that emphasize emotional connection, shared experience, and mutual support. Because women tend to process issues through conversation, they create spaces where often discussion, vulnerability, and empathy are central. This means a wife is more likely to have a strong, engaged network of friends, family, and even colleagues who regularly check in on her well-being. Example, if she's facing a marital issue, she's likely to turn to a close friend or a group chat or other women for guidance and emotional processing.
Men, on the other hand, tend to form task-oriented or activity-based communities, where connection happens indirectly through shared experiences, rather than deep conversation. Because men process problems internally before discussing them, if at all, their friendships often involve doing things together, sports, business, or hobbies, without necessarily discussing personal struggles. This means a husband might have a broader, less emotional, intimate network. His friends may not even know what's going on in his marriage, unless he intentionally shares. For example, if he's facing a marital issue, he might withdraw from socializing, hoping to work through it alone or discuss it in a more indirect way. For example, asking for general advice rather than sharing personal emotions.
A wife's strong network of supportive women can be a major advantage because she has immediate access to emotional reassurance and perspective. However, if her social circle consists of women who reinforce negative narratives, for example, "Men never change," or "You deserve better," it can create an echo chamber that influences how she sees her husband. On the flip side, if her community is pro-marriage and solution-oriented, it can provide her with a healthy coping strategy that strengthens the relationship.
Because men tend to think first and talk later, a husband who lacks close emotional support of friendships may struggle with bottling up stress instead of talking it through. If his community consists of single male friends or men who discourage emotional expression, he may not receive the type of constructive support needed to work through marital challenges. Alternatively, if his network includes mature, marriage-minded men, they can offer wise counsel and accountability, helping him navigate issues more effectively.
Women are more likely to seek external emotional validation. If a wife is frustrated, she may vent to friends before addressing the issue with her husband. Men are more likely to delay seeking external input. A husband may try to process an issue alone for a long time before talking about it with anyone. If both partners aren't careful, their differing approaches can create a divide in how they involve their communities, leading to misalignment in their support systems.
A wife should understand that her husband isn't avoiding conversation. He just processes differently. A husband should recognize that talking through issues isn't nagging. It's how his wife makes sense of the situation. Couples should intentionally cultivate friendships with people who support their marriage rather than undermine it. It helps when both spouses share some friendships, creating a marital ecosystem rather than completely separating social worlds. A wife can allow her husband time to think before expecting an immediate discussion. A husband can make an effort to verbally process with his wife sooner, even if it's okay to just say, "I need time to think, but I want to work through this with you." The communities a husband and wife engage with are shaped by their natural communication styles. While women tend to have emotionally rich communities, men often have activity-based ones. This difference can either strengthen or challenge a marriage depending on how intentional the couple is about balancing their influences. By understanding and respecting these differences, couples can create a harmonious blend of communication that benefits both their personal growth and their marriage.
I mean, I look, I'm just trying to speak both sides because I do know people that actually I have been in situations where, I'm the married one and then I'm hanging out with a single person. And it's almost like, look, if a guy wanted to try to come up and talk to her just because I'm married, like, I'm not going to stop her flow. I mean, that could potentially be your future husband, right? Who maybe I could be a part of their wedding. But, I don't necessarily mean, I don't feel like all cases is true to where if you're hanging out with single women or if you're even hanging out with other women who may be in relationships that will open the door, to bring in, another person or whatever, into their space, into their relationship or whatever that, that I don't know. I know for me, I've seen all of that, in the past, where, I mean, I'm tunnel vision, right? So I'm like this, and when you get dressed up and you're feeling beautiful, you're looking beautiful and you get a compliment, sometimes people who may be in relationships may take that compliment and be like, oh, wow, because maybe their spouse, haven't been particularly telling them, so they go out and they get this attention. Maybe they don't know how to handle it, right? I don't know. I know that for me, I don't necessarily need validation from anybody else outside of my house. I don't need any validation from anyone outside of my marriage. When you hear it in all transparency, it's nice to hear that, okay, you look nice. Someone finds you attractive outside of, the person that you decide to spend the rest of your life with. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure men, I'm sure you get compliments when you go out and a woman is like, wow, you got beautiful eyes or you're handsome.
No, not at all. No compliments. Nothing at all. Clearly, I don't have what I used to have when I was much younger now. No compliments. None.
In marital relationships, mutual appreciation and verbal affirmations play a crucial role in fostering emotional intimacy and satisfaction. However, societal norms and communication patterns often result in husbands receiving fewer compliments than their wives, which can impact the emotional well-being and the overall dynamics of the marriage. I will say to add, as you get older, it could be a little more difficult meeting friends or having friend groups. I don't care how sweet you are, how nice you are, how you got great energy. People will definitely notice that. But the follow through and the consistency, sometimes people who already have their friend groups, that's generally kind of where they stay. They're comfortable there. They know what to expect, and it kind of just, that's their thing. They might meet someone, but they're probably not going to follow through or be as consistent. But and there might be some people that may have a different experience where, they have great luck and no matter what, they're going to meet friends and it is what it is. But, starting from, I'll say grade school, some people have friends from the time that they've been in like middle school all the way throughout their adulthood. But then you have others where they may have grown from that area or from that stage up until like maybe college or mid 20s or whatever the case is. And then next thing you know, they grow out of each other, or they might go different directions, or they may have different events that transpired in their life. They may move away, whatever the case is. But a lot of times I feel like, when women can find friends and they're like, wow, they're cool. They're fun to hang out with. They're really cool. We can have like just certain conversations, and then they kind of, they try to hold on to that.
Let's talk about that actually, because I think like women, like for my wife, for instance, like literally like she can meet somebody and they're like having this little quick conversation, and then they like exchanging numbers. Like in the instant, they're like exchanging numbers and they're like fast friends. Like why do you think that is, right? Because I think that's one thing that like, and I know this is true because with a lot of guys, it's like we have to, even like sometimes like with neighbors or you meet, it takes a little bit of time. You like talk to someone, we got to really like feel somebody out before like we're gonna like, even like I know for years, like there's guys I hoop with like, months, like, and we have a little conversation on the court, but it would take a while before we were just like friends and we just exchange numbers and we start like communicating. But like we met Valerie and what's her cousin's name? Tasha. We met Valerie and Tasha. We were at this sports bar, like by our old place, and we met. They're amazing. They're amazing people. Yeah. We just met them there, and they just like became like instantly just became like our friends, and
still to this day.
Yeah. And I think like, but I think like for men, a lot of times, especially like there is sometimes we do have older friendships because I don't think we give the friendship that easily. Once, when we're younger and you're in the same space, it's a little different. But once you grow up, you don't really give it that easily. It takes time before you feel like you can really trust and open yourself up to other people.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like men are definitely different in that aspect. It takes them a little longer. They may see someone and they're like, wow, he'll be cool to hang out with, but they won't initiate the conversation to make that happen. Like, hey man, let's just exchange numbers and maybe we'll go watch a game or, or whatever. But women, tend to be a lot more open. And I will say the women who have a lot of confidence in themselves, it's easy to engage with another woman who also has confidence in herself. The women I found it seems like, oh, wow, they want to have some kind of friendship, but they are a little hesitant. It's because they've gone through some things, maybe they've been through, a bad breakup with another friend who it really hurt them. And they're like, man, I really love this relationship we were in and it just didn't work out. And I don't want to go through that again or whatever the case is. But someone like me, I understand that, sometimes there's failures in friendships. Sometimes you could disappoint someone based on what maybe their needs are. They may have different needs than what you need. I don't tend to need a whole lot. I'm not really a needy person when it comes to friendships. I'm just not. So if you have a needy friend or needy person, they're going to expect more from you. Me, I'm going to be around. I'm going to be there for you. You call, you want to talk, or I'm there. If I'm your friend, I am your friend. And the people who know me know that if I'm in, I'm in. There's not really that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think I'm past that stage in my life where it's like do I want to continue to build friendship with this person or don't I? I could recognize if the friendship is going to work or if it's not. I can also recognize what type of friendship this is going to be. Not all friendships are going to be on the same level. I have a best friend. We've been best friends since we were in high school. We actually had a set of best friends, that we used to do all these things together in high school. We all still engage to this day. Some of us may not engage as frequently or as much as we used to, but if we pick up the phone, even if it's 6 months later, we still are loving on each other. We're still, catching up and just kind of filling in the gaps. But my best friend, LaShawn, like we've been friends for a very long time. We have seen each other grow, have children and experience things and be, in each other's lives in a way, where, it was challenging, for us to see for one another and also to celebrate each other's wins and happiness and different milestones in our lives. But yeah, I know the difference, where sometimes you can have a friendship where it's only going to go but so far as how you maintain the friendship, if that makes sense. And I think women have a way to adapt in that aspect as opposed to men, it obviously is a whole lot different.
I mean, it's a little different, but I also think that like both sexes struggle with when to let go of friendships. And I don't mean that, it's not saying that you just release your friends and they're just gone, but like sometimes there are friendships that don't service your current, like where you are in life, right? And
Absolutely.
It's just that you've kind of outgrown what it was that was the basis of that friendship. And in some instances, the way that friend is behaving, they're putting you directly at risk of being, successfully staying in your marriage, or at least adding friction to your marriage by their behavior.
The goal in your marriage is to stay connected and stay committed to each other throughout all of life's challenges. But what happens to many couples is that they maintain allegiances with other people who predate their marriage, friends, colleagues, even family members, which can present challenges in balancing those relationships while honoring their marriage. While external relationships can add value in your life, research shows that when a spouse feels secondary to outside relationships, it can lead to emotional disconnection, increased conflict, and even marital dissatisfaction. A study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that emotional investment in friendships or family members over a spouse can weaken marital bonds, as it may reduce time spent nurturing the relationship, limit emotional availability, and introduce external influences that may not always support the marriage. Dr. Gottman emphasizes that couples who do not prioritize each other risk creating a roommate-like dynamic, where emotional intimacy fades and resentment builds. Over time, this can lead to one or both partners seeking validation and connection elsewhere, which weakens the foundation of marriage. So with that being said, stay connected.
Stay in love.
And we'll see you next episode.